AITA for refusing to give up my seat on a plane to my sister's new husband? I need to back up a bit, because the actual flight incident doesn't make sense without the whole picture. My sister and I have always had, let's call it an imbalanced relationship. She's 2 years older than me, and ever since we were kids, it felt like she was the one who got away with everything, while I was the one expected to compromise. If she wanted the bigger slice of cake, I was told to be the bigger person and give it to her. If she wanted to borrow my clothes, I was told to share, even when she'd stretch them out or stain them. If I asked to borrow hers, suddenly her closet was sacred territory. Our parents didn't always mean to, but they constantly reinforced this dynamic of keep the peace, let her have her way. So when she got married 3 months ago, I wasn't surprised at the way the wedding planning went. She cried her way into getting things she wanted, even when it was completely unreasonable. The venue had to be at a certain resort, even though it was way over budget. The dress fittings involved tantrums. I was her maid of honor, but mostly that meant being the punching bag for her stress. I bit my tongue because that's what I've been trained to do my whole life, don't rock the boat. Anyway, fast forward to last month. My parents had this big idea to take the whole family on a trip for their 30th anniversary. It was going to be 8 of us total, me, my parents, my sister and her new husband, and a couple of cousins. It was meant to be this celebratory family thing, and I'll admit, I was actually looking forward to it because I travel a lot for work. I'm the kind of person who actually finds comfort in airports and knows the tricks to make travel easier. That's part of why I had a pile of airline points saved up. I'd been racking them up for years from flights, hotels, and my work credit card. When I booked the trip, I decided to use some of those points to upgrade myself to business class for the long-haul flight. I didn't even think twice about it. I get migraines and my back locks up if I'm crammed in a tiny seat for 12 hours. Business class makes it bearable. It wasn't like I had the money to buy everyone upgrades, it was just me using the perks I'd earned. Everyone else, including my parents, had economy seats. That was fine. Nobody made a fuss when I booked it, and I didn't announce it like I was rubbing it in anyone's face. The problem started the week before the trip. My sister was gushing about how it was going to be her husband's first real long-haul flight and how she wanted to make it special for him. I didn't think much of it until she casually asked if I'd mind switching my seat with him so he could experience business class. I laughed because I thought she was joking, but she just stared at me expectantly. I said, no? I used my points for that seat. I'm not giving it away. She rolled her eyes and muttered something like, figures. I brushed it off, but I should have known that wasn't the end of it. Day of the flight comes. We're at the airport, and everyone's buzzing with excitement. My sister pulls me aside near the gate, lowering her voice like she's asking me to do her a tiny favor. Hey, listen, she says. You don't mind letting her husband take your seat, right? It would mean the world to him. He's nervous about flying, and it's such a long trip. You travel all the time, you'll be fine in economy. I looked at her like she had 2 heads. No. I already told you, I used my points for this upgrade. I'm not giving it up. That's when her husband pipes in. He tries to put on this reasonable, friendly voice, but it comes off condescending. It's just one flight, he says. Wouldn't it be nice to start this family trip with a little generosity? I mean, you'll still get to the destination either way. I stared at him, dumbfounded. Are you seriously asking me to give up the seat I paid for with my points? You guys didn't even think to buy an upgrade yourselves, but I'm supposed to hand mine over? He kind of huffed and glanced at my sister, like he expected her to back him up. Of course, she did. Don't be selfish, she said under her breath. It's just a seat. Don't embarrass us by making a scene. I felt my cheeks burn, because here I was again, cornered into being the difficult one if I stood my ground. But I took a breath and said firmly, I'm not giving up my seat. End of story. Then I grabbed my boarding pass and walked away. When I got settled into my business class seat, I could see them boarding later and glaring at me as they shuffled past to economy. My cousin texted me from the back like, "Wow, what did you do?" They look pissed. I just told him I didn't cave. The actual flight was awkward. Every time I walked past them to use the bathroom, I could feel the tension. My sister wouldn't make eye contact. Her husband gave me this tight, fake smile. I tried to just enjoy my seat, watch my movies, and not let it ruin my trip. But of course, it didn't stop there. When we landed and had our first family dinner at the resort, my sister blew up. She accused me of humiliating her husband and making the whole family look cheap because other people saw me sitting in business while the rest of them were in economy. She actually said, "You should have thought about how it looked, sitting up there all smug while the rest of us were crammed in the back." I said, "It looked like exactly what it was. I used the points I earned, and I sat in the seat I paid for. How does that embarrass you?" Her husband jumped in, saying, "It's about respect. You had a chance to show you cared about us, and you didn't. You cared more about legroom than family." That made me laugh out loud, which probably didn't help. "Respect goes both ways," I said. "You don't get to demand something that isn't yours and then call me selfish for saying no." My cousin started whispering, my parents looked uncomfortable, and the whole dinner went downhill from there. That was just the beginning of the fallout. The days after that dinner felt like walking on eggshells. My sister barely looked at me, and when she did, it was always with this tight little smirk, like she was holding in some private joke at my expense. Her husband? Oh, he leaned into the role of wronged victim with the theatrics of a man auditioning for a soap opera. If someone mentioned the flight, he would sigh loudly, rub his lower back, and say things like, "Yeah, some people just don't understand how hard economy is when you're tall." For the record, he's not tall. He's like 5 feet 8 inches. But he said it loud enough that the table of cousins heard, and I saw at least one of them roll their eyes. My parents, who usually try to keep peace at all costs, were being strangely careful. On the third day of the trip, my mom pulled me aside while we were walking back from the beach. She kept her sunglasses on even though the sun was already setting, and her voice was quiet, almost conspiratorial. "You know, honey," she started, "sometimes it's worth making a small sacrifice to keep the family harmony. Your sister is still adjusting to married life, and, Bill, is trying to find his place. Maybe if you just apologized even a little, it would smooth things over." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Apologize? For what? For using my own airline points that I earned? Mom sighed. "You know, it's not about the seat anymore. It's about how they feel. He feels embarrassed and she feels protective. You could help fix that." I laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. So because he feels entitled to something that wasn't his, I'm supposed to apologize? That's like me asking Dad to give me his car keys because I felt like I deserved to drive a nicer car and then throwing a tantrum when he said no. Mom flinched but didn't say anything. She just squeezed my arm and muttered, "Think about it, okay?" That night, at another group dinner, my sister made sure to sit as far from me as possible. Every time I joined a conversation, she'd get up and move or start whispering to her husband. The cousins noticed. My cousin Daniel actually texted me under the table, "She's being ridiculous. Don't cave." But not everyone was on my side. Another cousin, Marie, took me aside after dinner and said, "Look, it was just one seat. Was it really worth all this drama? You know how your sister gets. You could have just given it to him to keep the peace." I stared at her. So what, I'm supposed to reward her tantrums forever? She already thinks the world owes her something because she's married now. Marie shrugged. Sometimes it's easier to let her win. That phrase stuck with me, let her win. Because it wasn't just about a seat. It was about my sister expecting me to roll over every time she demanded something, just because she throws a fit when she doesn't get her way. The real explosion didn't happen until the 5th day of the trip. We had a family excursion planned, a day-long tour of the island with a private bus. Everyone was in high spirits at first, snapping photos and pointing out landmarks. But about halfway through the ride, my sister suddenly announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. You know, if OP cared more about family than herself, this whole trip would have started on a much happier note. The bus went dead silent. My stomach dropped. She wasn't even trying to be subtle anymore. Her husband added, yeah, imagine bragging about your status points and then not sharing with family. So selfish. I clenched my fists. Are you serious right now? I didn't brag. I upgraded myself with points I earned. That's it. End of story. Sister leaned forward, eyes glittering. You embarrassed us. You made my husband feel small. And now you're doubling down instead of just admitting you were wrong. I snapped. Wrong for what? For not letting your husband leech off me? For not sacrificing something I earned just to feed his ego? Gasps all around. My cousin's eyes widened. My dad cleared his throat, but before he could intervene, my sister hissed. You've always been jealous of me. Admit it. You can't stand that I'm married now and you're still single, so you did this to humiliate us. The words hit me like a slap. I felt my face burn, partly from rage, partly from humiliation. Jealous? I spat. Of what? Of being married to someone who throws Facebook shade because he didn't get a free upgrade? You're delusional. The bus driver actually turned around for a second, probably wondering what the hell was going on. My cousins looked like they wanted to melt into the seats. Finally, my dad barked, enough. Both of you. His voice was so sharp that even my sister sat back, fuming but silent. The rest of the ride was painfully quiet. Nobody spoke. Nobody even looked at each other. That night, I found out my sister and her husband had made a Facebook post that read, "It's sad when family forgets the meaning of generosity. Money and status don't buy class." They didn't tag me, but half the family knew exactly who it was about. My phone buzzed with messages from relatives back home. Some sided with me, saying my sister was being entitled. Others said things like, couldn't you have just given him the seat? It wasn't worth all this fighting. I felt like I was losing my mind. No matter what I said or didn't say, somehow I was the villain. But here's the thing, the more they tried to guilt me, the stronger I felt about standing my ground. Because if I gave in now, it wouldn't end with the seat. Next time it would be something else, money, favors, sacrifices, all to keep my sister comfortable while she painted me as selfish. The breaking point came 2 nights later, at what was supposed to be our big family anniversary dinner. My parents had reserved a beautiful restaurant on the water, with live music and a set menu. Everyone was dressed up. For a brief moment, I thought maybe we could just get through one nice evening without drama. I was wrong. Halfway through the meal, my sister raised her glass and said, "Here's to family, even when some members don't know how to put family first." Her husband laughed, clinking his glass against hers. I saw red. I stood up. You know what? Enough. You've been needling me this whole trip because I didn't give up something I earned. You've dragged this onto Facebook, whispered behind my back, and turned what should have been a celebration into your personal pity party. So let me make this clear, I don't owe you my seat. I don't owe you my points. I don't owe you anything. Gasps again. The restaurant went quiet except for the distant strum of a guitar. My sister's face twisted. You're humiliating me in front of everyone. I shot back, no, you've been humiliating yourself. Every snide comment, every passive-aggressive toast, every pity sigh, it's pathetic. You're a grown woman married to a grown man. Start acting like it. Her husband slammed his glass down. Don't talk to her like that. I turned to him. Then stop enabling her. You're not owed a free upgrade, and the fact that you've let this spiral for an entire week says more about your pride than my generosity. The silence was deafening. Even the cousins who'd been on the fence before were staring at me like they couldn't believe I'd actually said it. My parents didn't defend me. They just looked tired. My dad muttered something about not the time or place, but I sat back down, shaking, and said nothing else. That night, half the family avoided me. The other half pulled me aside to say, "Good for you." Someone needed to say it. When the plane touched down back home, I thought the drama might finally cool off. We weren't trapped together anymore. Everyone could go back to their own homes, their own routines. Maybe distance would give us some perspective. Wrong. If anything, the tension only escalated. By the time I got home, my phone was already buzzing with notifications. Screenshots of my sister's Facebook posts had spread through the family group chat like wildfire. One of her posts read, "True colors come out when generosity is needed most. Some people would rather hoard their blessings than share with family." It's heartbreaking but eye-opening. Another was a blurry photo of her and her husband, both smiling tightly with cocktails in hand. The caption? "At least I married someone who knows what real love and sacrifice look like." I wasn't tagged, but I might as well have been. My cousins, aunts, even a couple of old family friends had already started messaging me with versions of the same question: "What happened on the trip? Your sister is making it sound like you abandoned her." At first, I tried ignoring it. I told myself, don't engage. Don't feed into it. But the texts piled up, and the gossip grew legs. Suddenly, I wasn't just the selfish sibling who didn't share a seat, I was the one who had humiliated my sister, screamed at her in public, disrespected my parents. Every retelling got more exaggerated, like some twisted game of telephone. The worst part? My parents weren't exactly defending me. When I called my mom to ask why she wasn't correcting the record, she sighed. "Honey, your sister is very hurt. You know how dramatic she can be. I just don't want to stir the pot further. People will believe what they want." "So you're okay with me being painted as the villain?" I snapped. She hesitated. "Sometimes it's easier to let her vent." That phrase again. Let her win. Let her vent. Always me being asked to be the bigger person. Always me swallowing my pride for the sake of peace. Meanwhile, my sister doubled down. She started making TikToks, yes, actual TikToks, with captions like "POV, you realize blood isn't always thicker than water" over sad music, paired with random vacation footage of her staring off dramatically at the ocean. Her husband left comments like "Preach Red Heart" and "Real family is who shows up for you." It was laughable, if it weren't so infuriating. One night, my cousin Daniel called me. He sounded half amused, half exhausted. "Bro, you're going viral in our family group chats. Your sister is making it sound like you ripped the upgrade out of her husband's hands mid-flight." I groaned. "You were there. You saw what happened." "Yeah, and so did the rest of us. But the problem is, the people who weren't there only hear her version. And she's loud." He paused before adding, "Honestly? If I were you, I'd make a post. Set the record straight." I thought about it. A long, petty Facebook post outlining every detail, how I used my own points, how they guilt-tripped me, how my sister weaponized social media to play the victim. But something in me resisted. It felt like stooping to their level. Instead, I made one calm, factual post. For the record, no one is entitled to someone else's airline miles, points, or money. I upgraded myself with points I earned. That's it. I'm not engaging in further drama, but I won't allow lies about me to circulate unchallenged. The comments section blew up instantly. Some relatives liked it. Some stayed silent. My sister, predictably, left a passive-aggressive reply, "Funny how you only tell half the story. But I guess the truth hurts." At that point, I muted her. But muting her online didn't mean I was free of her offline. A week later, my parents invited me over for dinner. I thought maybe they wanted to clear the air. Instead, it turned into an ambush. My sister and her husband were there, sitting smugly at the table. The second I walked in, I knew it wasn't good. My dad cleared his throat and said, "We need to have a family discussion." My sister jumped in before he could continue. You owe us an apology. I laughed. Out loud. You're kidding. Her husband crossed his arms. You humiliated us in front of everyone, and you've been slandering us online since we got back. I've been slandering you? I shot back. All I did was post the truth. You two are the ones making vague posts and TikToks like middle schoolers. My mom raised her hands. Please, can we not start yelling? I turned to her. Why am I the only one being asked to apologize? Why aren't you telling her to stop spreading lies? Mom's face pinched. Because she's fragile right now. She feels hurt. That word again. Feels. Always about her feelings, never about facts. Finally, I looked directly at my sister. Here's my apology. I'm sorry you feel entitled to things that don't belong to you. I'm sorry your husband's ego is so fragile that he can't sit in economy without making it my fault. And I'm sorry our parents keep enabling this circus instead of holding you accountable. That's all you're getting. The room went silent. My dad rubbed his temples. My mom whispered, "Why are you so harsh?" My sister's eyes filled with crocodile tears. See? She hates me. She's always hated me. She can't stand that I'm happy. At that point, I stood up. I'm done. If you want to keep believing I'm the villain, go ahead. But don't expect me to keep showing up to these ambushes just so you can bully me into submission. And I left. That was 2 months ago. Since then, my sister has barely spoken to me. My parents keep pressuring me to reach out and make peace, but I refuse. A few cousins still check in, reassuring me that I did nothing wrong. But the damage is done. Family holidays are going to be awkward forever. Sometimes I lie awake wondering if I should have just given up the seat, even though I know in my bones it would have been the wrong choice. Because it was never about the seat. It was about boundaries. And once you let someone trample your boundaries once, they'll keep doing it forever. After that dinner ambush, I thought things couldn't get worse. But I underestimated how deep my sister's pettiness could go. For weeks, she doubled down on her narrative. More vague posts. More family loyalty quotes over beach selfies. My favorite was one where she filmed herself pouring wine with the caption, "Cheers to cutting out toxic people and protecting your peace, wineglass sparkles." I didn't respond. I refused to. But the silence didn't stop the ripple effect. A couple of aunts uninvited me to gatherings to avoid drama. An uncle texted me privately, saying, "You should just say sorry. Doesn't matter if you're right, family comes first." That phrase, "family comes first," started to grate on me. Because in practice, it always meant my sister comes first. Her comfort, her ego, her narrative. Meanwhile, I was expected to play the villain, apologize, and keep the peace. It all came to a head at my mom's birthday dinner. I almost didn't go. Something in my gut told me it would be another setup. But I didn't want to give my sister more ammo to say, "She doesn't even show up for family anymore." So I went. The restaurant was nice, white tablecloths, candles, the works. When I arrived, I noticed immediately that the seating arrangement was deliberate. My sister and her husband were at one end, whispering and smirking. My parents sat in the middle, looking tense. The only seat left for me was across from my sister. I sat down. Tried to keep things polite. For the first half hour, we managed small talk. My mom opened her gifts, my dad ordered wine, and for a brief moment, I thought maybe, we could get through one dinner without drama. But then dessert came. And my sister cleared her throat. "I think," she began, in that fake sweet voice of hers, "that we should address the elephant in the room." My stomach dropped. She turned directly to me. "You've been avoiding accountability. And honestly? It's exhausting for everyone. You ruined our vacation, you've been attacking us online, and you still haven't apologized." Her husband nodded, like her backup dancer. "It's not just about us. You've divided the family. People are choosing sides. That's on you. I laughed. Not out of humor, but disbelief. You're serious? You're the one making posts about me. You're the one who started this circus. And now I'm the one dividing the family? My mom jumped in quickly. Please, can we not? But my sister cut her off. No, Mom. This needs to be said. She thinks she's better than us. She always has. And I'm sick of it. That was it. The final straw. I leaned forward, looked her dead in the eye, and said, you know what? You're right. I am better than you, not because of money, not because of upgrades, but because I don't manipulate people and play the victim to get my way. You've been coddled your whole life, and the second someone doesn't give you what you want, you throw a tantrum. It's pathetic. The table went silent. My dad looked like he wanted to disappear. My mom whispered my name like a warning. But my sister? Her face crumpled. And then came the tears. The full waterworks. She covered her face with her hands and wailed, see? She hates me. She's always hated me. She can't stand that I'm happy and married and she's not. It was so rehearsed it was almost comical. People at nearby tables turned to look. Her husband wrapped an arm around her dramatically, glaring at me like I'd slapped her. That was my breaking point. I stood up, dropped my napkin on the table, and said, loud enough for the whole room to hear, I don't hate you. I don't even think about you half as much as you think I do. But I am done letting you twist every story so you can play the victim. Done. From now on, if you want to tell the world I'm the villain, go ahead. But I won't be here to defend myself, because I'm done playing this game. And I walked out. I didn't even make it to the parking lot before my phone started buzzing. Texts from my mom, please come back. Don't ruin my birthday. From my dad, we'll talk later. From my sister, you're disgusting. I hope you're happy. But for the first time in months, I felt free. The fallout was immediate. My mom cried when I didn't come back inside. My dad scolded me later for making a scene. My sister went nuclear on social media, posting cryptic things like, imagine ruining your mother's birthday because you can't handle being confronted. Some people are truly heartless. But I didn't respond. Not once. Instead, I went low contact. Muted the family group chat. Ignored the vague posts. Stopped showing up to every gathering just to be cornered. I started focusing on my own life, my friends, my work, my hobbies. And slowly, the noise quieted. The cousins who mattered reached out privately to say, we know the truth. The relatives who chose to believe my sister? Fine. Let them. I can't control the story she tells, but I can control whether I let it consume me. Now, months later, I look back and realize, it was never about the airplane seat. It was about years of being cast as the responsible one, the one who sacrifices, the one who keeps the peace while my sister burns bridges and cries victim. That trip just brought everything to the surface. So, am I the asshole for refusing to give up my upgrade? For standing my ground, even when it cost me my relationship with my sister and made family dinners a battlefield? Maybe to some people, I am. Maybe I should have caved for the sake of peace. But here's what I know, peace built on my silence isn't peace. It's surrender. And I'm done surrendering.